One of the most iconic and deadly weapons of the Fallout series is the Fat Man. It appears in every Fallout game after Bethesda's acquisition and has definitely left its mark within the series. Inspired by the M28-M29 Davy Crockett weapon system, it is essentially a handheld catapult that launches portable nuclear bombs and causes tremendous amounts of damage to whoever finds themselves on the other side. The portable nuclear bomb it fires, the Mini-Nuke, is just as notable. It appears in the same games as the Fat Man, and has a special appearance in Fallout Brotherhood of Steel as the Mini-Nuke grenade. Today, I will be going over the development, technical breakdown, and different variants of the Fat Man weapon system. Development of the M42 Fat Man began at Fort Strong near Boston, Massachusetts in February 2076, with the goal being to create a man-portable tactical nuclear launcher ergonomic enough to be used by ground troops. It would also need to be able to destroy reinforced bunkers and entrenched enemy positions. They did not know it yet, but the Mini-Nuke would be one of the most powerful man-portable weapons ever devised. General Brock led the development at Fort Strong in 2075 and prepared the location for weapon and power armor testing by leveling the old barracks and constructing a simulated town. It was at this location Brock devised two teams: Alpha, working on the T-51B power armor, and Bravo, working on the M42 Fat Man launchers. As development began, problems arose almost instantly, as the warheads were simply too heavy to clear the blast radius fast enough to provide safety for the operator. Even stripping them to the minimal possible size failed to produce an acceptable effect. Instead, the development team decided to increase the power of the launcher unit, even considering using railgun technology to accelerate the warhead. This idea would have brought the project out of scope, however, as it would require for the overburdened soldier to carry an additional power pack the size of a suitcase and turn the Fat Man into a crew-served weapon. One researcher proposed falling back on the spigot mortar system used over a century earlier in Piat launchers. This method proved itself and enabled the team to continue their work developing the weapon. Development continued using the Merv variant of the launcher, Merv standing for Multiple Independently Targeted Reentry Vehicles. Another downturn for the team sadly evolved as live fire tests claimed lives. In fact, with 2 soldiers killed during a single test. No remains could be recovered, and the commanding officer in charge of the project, General Brock, covered up the incident, ordering urns packed with sand to be sent back to their relatives. The project hit a breakthrough in December 2076 when the project lead discovered a solution for the launcher problems. 6 hours, 14 cups of coffee, and 1 concerned night shift lab crew later, the future M42 was conceptualized. Based on the spigot mortar mechanism previously mentioned, the launcher would only have to accommodate a firing through and system relying on a mechanical launching, rather than a chemical or electrical means. The Fat Man warhead would be propelled by a subcharge embedded inside the warhead, catapulting the warhead through the air to the target, giving plenty of range with the added bonus of not producing any smoke trail. This would prevent the firing team's position to be known by the enemy. By September 2077, after 100 test firings, the weapon was complete and ready to be shipped to units overseas. A large number of units were manufactured and shipped together with the appropriate warheads to select locations throughout the United States. The weapon quickly entered the general public's imagination, with television advertisements, magazine issues, and more telling the American people about their government's latest weapon in the fight against the communist China. But the next month would not allow pre-war America to see the weapon's true potential, as nuclear fire encompassed the world. The apex of this weapon's story takes place after the Great War, with those who emerged after the Hellfire. The Mini-Nuke consists of 4 principal components. The detonator shell on the bottom contains a conventional subcharge that detonates when struck by the M42's firing pin, catapulting it out of the launcher. 4 stabilizer fins attached to it ensure a stable trajectory and prevent tumbling in flight, increasing accuracy, a necessary feature, as the projectile is not spin stabilized. The hemisphere core is screwed onto the top, containing the nuclear core. Finally, the weapon is fitted with a beryllium contact fuse that starts the nuclear reaction on impact. We can see the resemblance of this munition with the same used as the previously mentioned Davy Crockett launcher. It fired an American W-54 miniature nuclear warhead that was capable of explosive yields ranging from 10 to 1,000 tons of TNT. The Fat Man. The M42 is the base model and variant of the Fat Man. It appears in Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, and Fallout 76. It is a very effective area of effect weapon, allowing a person to bombard a large area with good precision and deadly force. It uses a mini-nuke for ammunition, which when fired, results in a small nuclear blast. There are different variants of ammunition compatible with this weapon, depending on what game it's in. In Fallout New Vegas, the Fat Man is compatible with the low-yield, Big Kid, Tiny Tots, and timed variants of the Mini-Nuke. All of these extra Mini-Nuke variants can be purchased from the gun runners. The low yield has less explosive power and a smaller kill radius than the standard Mini-Nuke, but with the trade-off of increased range and cheaper price. The Big Kid is significantly more powerful than the standard Mini-Nuke and produces more residual radiation. The increased damage comes at the cost of reduced range, which can cause serious harm to an unprotected individual. Tiny Tots can be used for cluster bombing, with each Tiny Tot round releasing 9 miniature mini-nukes, similar to an experimental Merv shot. While descending, they make a similar noise to incoming boomer artillery. The timed mini-nuke has a 5-second fuse and will not detonate on impact. The time-only fuse allows the round to ricochet off of objects or be bounced around corners. The mini-nuke itself can also cause blunt damage if it strikes a target, in addition to the following explosion. Experimental Merv. Appearing in Fallout 3, Fallout 4, and Fallout 76, the Merv is named for the multiple independent re-entry vehicles intercontinental ballistic missile payload. 2 distinct variants of the experimental Merv exist. The first is a prototype that was delivered when the National Guard Depot in Washington, D.C., which fired 8 individual mini-nukes at once, which means the user needs a huge stockpile of ammunition to operate this behemoth. The second is a modified version of the standard launcher in the Commonwealth and Appalachia, which splits a single mini-nuke into 6 independent projectiles. Esther. Esther appears in Fallout New Vegas with the Gun Runner's Arsenal DLC, and is a unique Fat Man with a different firing mechanism, a blast shield, a light blue body, and a thick glass or plastic bed holding the mini-nukes. Although it is 10 pounds heavier than a standard Fat Man, Esther is more durable, never jams, costs 10 less action points per attack, is more powerful with a direct damage value of 75, and is able to use the GRA mini-nuke ammo types. When equipped, Esther provides unique defensive bonuses. It grants a temporary 10 additional DT and 25 points of radiation resistance, giving the user extra protection from the damage caused by the weapon. Esther can fire approximately 620 standard mini-nukes from full condition before breaking. This is 125 more mini-nukes than the standard Fat Man. The Striker. The Striker is a bit interesting, as it was developed as a modification to the M42 Fat Man and had no affiliation with the pre-war military. The story goes, Mark Wilson and Matthew Stevens initially conceived of the Striker's design one night after learning of their friend's medical condition. Thomas Davis, a returning Navy veteran, was wounded in combat and would never walk again. They all enjoyed bowling, and Thomas was still extremely good at it despite his condition. One night, Mark and Matthew got to talking over shooting the balls back up the return and checking the machinery when they came up with an idea to help Thomas bowl the perfect game he was so close to. Thomas's arms still worked, so they came up with the idea of a sort of bowling gun, built out of the ball return and a strong motor attached to the board. Their original idea would prove to be a colossal failure, as it only achieved sanding off the edges of the balls. So they began to discuss the idea with some of the other frequenters at the Beaver Creek Lanes bowling alley. Jacob brought up the idea that they should acquire and modify one of the new Fat Man catapults. Determined, they followed this advice, and used connections to find a supplier at an old surplus center out in the Willywax, and traded a couple tanks of gasoline for it. This was highly illegal, but they figured that it would be harmless because it was only meant for bowling. During development on October 6th, they forgot to reduce the tension springs, and the first ball they launched flew straight through the wall into the office and caved in a table in the dining area, knocking Mr. Clark out of his chair, nearly killing him. But Matthew and Daisy were able to talk him out of suing after coming to an agreement of free games and half-price beers for life. Meanwhile, an insurance adjuster had to be called in the next day and also had to be convinced of this story. Daisy spread the word that if he asked anyone to tell him that the ball return mechanism went haywire. The striker was effectively complete though, despite having never managed to adjust the final firing speed. A large projectile launcher, it is able to fire modified bowling balls by default, and once itself is modified, it can also fire mini-nukes. When hitting an NPC directly, a strike sound effect may play, similar to how the railway rifle plays the sound of a train whistle when reloading. Reading through the terminal entry "that was close" on the nearby terminal gives access to the ability to make modified bowling balls at any chemistry station with the proper materials. Nuka Nuke Launcher. The Nuka Nuke Launcher is a Fat Man nuclear catapult with a unique modification. It appears in the Nuka World DLC within Fallout 4. Instead of regular mini-nukes, it launches Nuka Nukes, a specially modified quantum-enhanced version with increased explosive power. The launcher deals 50% more damage than its basic counterpart, and is therefore the second most powerful weapon in the game, outclassed only by a Fat Man with the Merv modification or the legendary 2-shot prefix. While it cannot be outfitted with the Merv modification itself, it retains the advantage of the standard Fat Man's much longer range. Apart from its superior damage output and its unique ammunition, the Nuka Nuke launcher looks and handles exactly like the base version. This finally wraps up the development, technical breakdown, and different variants of the Fat Man weapon system. What are your thoughts on the Fat Man? Did you learn anything new? And what is your favorite version of the weapon? Let me know your answers down in the comments below, and as always, please like and subscribe for more content.